Welcome to the school where we talk about the business of design and the design of business. I'm Jose Caballer. This is Cristo.
Jose, you just got back from the launch conference, so I know you were in San Francisco, so you're seeing all the emerging trends and the hot topics. Let's kind of talk about that.
Let's talk about that. So Trends 2014.
Beautiful.
The launch conference was great. I think that
what is the launch conference?
The launch conference.
I'm not familiar with it.
So there's a style of conference that's called a pitch conference, where new companies in tech come and they pitch to people that are going to give them money. Venture capitalists, angel investors, the press, all the big glitterati was there. Mark Cuban spoke, Y Combinator. Something that I want to say very explicitly, aside from subscribing right here, there's a button right there on my finger. That aside from subscribing, one of the interests that I have in what we're doing with our show is to share with designers the future and what's happening and where they need to be focused on. We as designers here, where we are, I don't think, and I'm talking designers, and I'm talking not everyone. There are some people who are, don't know enough about what's happening in tech and where things are going on.
Right. It's hard to keep up with all what's going on.
True.
It really is. So
fair. So let's help them with the show.
But you didn't have an answer to me what the launch conference is.
Okay, it's a pitch conference. It's an entrepreneur, Jason Calacanis. There's 3 days, like 40 startups pitch on stage. They get feedback and they get money. The winners get money. It's like American Idol for startups.
Perfect. That's a great description.
And it's fun, and there's a bunch of nerds, and it's very diverse. There's men, women, all types of people there. So the conference, here's what was striking to me this year. Really good design on almost all the startups. A lot of skinny jeans, so it was a younger audience this year, like on stage, pitching. Amazing ideas. I didn't see anything that I was like blown away by that it was completely different. I saw a few that were in the design space, actually, in the design space. Yves Behar, who is an Art Center alum, he graduated, I think, in your class, 94, 95, around
He's
there.
a well-known product designer.
Well-known product designer. He spoke about the role of design, and he's designed a lot of really great things. His model that he's using today, and this is part of our trends, because we're talking about it from the business of design, he takes equity in all his projects, and he co-founds, like how I'm a co-founder of Scratch It, and Blind Labs is doing Scratch It, a startup. We're starting to do that model even where we're taking equity in our clients.
I have the same thing. I'm an equity owner in the Facebook games that I'm developing.
Yeah.
I'm also an equity owner in the mobile app that I'm developing too.
Yeah, so we're already on there. We're on that trend. But so let's talk about that trend for the people that, what the hell is equity? Okay. How do I do that? How do I ask for that?
Okay.
If I'm a designer and I'm sitting at home, and I know specific designers who are doing this too, young guys coming out of Art Center who are beginning to do this. What do you do? How do you do it?
Okay, so one trend that you're talking about is the shifting business model versus client and vendor. It's changing. We now have a greater stake in the companies that we're working with and helping, and I love hearing that. What else are we going to be talking about? Let's go down the list.
So we're talking about like actual production relative things. What are we designing for in the 21st century in 2014? Are we designing now for websites or mobile? Mobile, that's huge. Mobile, and very specifically, sensors and fitness devices. The experience around the quantified self is how it's being called. That was a huge trend on stage.
The quantified self, okay.
Yeah, it's called the quantified self. The other one thing is big data was a trend in 2013. It's kind of ebbing now, but people aren't talking about it that much. But it's still a big deal, and it's actually important to designers. So I want to keep big data on the trend radar, especially for designers.
Quickly, what's big data in a sentence?
Big data is the fact that there are so many different input. Facebook, all the things that we put out has 1 million likes, right? Audience or companies are listening to that with software platforms. I'll give you an example. There's an agency consulting firm in Austin called the Dotchess Group. And they are a social media marketing consulting firm. But guess what? What's their primary thing? They have a platform that measures your footprint in the social media space. A lot of people think that social media is a channel. It is not. It's actually an ecosystem of a two-way conversation that you can measure as to what you're putting out and what response you're getting. So that's really complicated because there's 1 million people talking to you if you're a big company. Even us, as a small kind of design community here in LA, we're putting out a ton of content and getting a ton of input. It drives you crazy, especially the old designers. They're like, there's so much stuff. Oh my God, I don't want to do this.
I think you use I think you used like 4 terms
That are too big.
That are new, possibly to some of our audience.
Which ones?
So you didn't really clearly tell me what big data is just yet.
Lots of data, how to measure it,
how to use it.
How to use it.
Okay.
That's it.
Right. It's combing through all that stuff.
Yep.
And making some
Decisions,
sense out of it.
yeah.
And letting that inform something. So it's not just out of your gut instinct.
Exactly right.
And then you're going to be measured against that.
Yeah.
Right? So, for example, so if the data tells you that, give me an example about data.
So I'm going to give you a very small example relative to the school. And it's a business that both you and I are very vested in. I do, for all the events, data before and data after.
Okay.
A survey pre, a survey post. One of my assistants a long time ago, about 3 years ago, she started doing like graphs for the events. So we noticed that 65% of the audience was female, and they were transitioning from like either print to web or from one thing to the other. So there was 4 colors in the school's color palette. I chose, to do the magenta, the pink first, because we had a really large female audience. And then I remeasured at the How conference the data, the same thing. Designers that go to these conferences, what are they looking for? And it's predominantly women. 60% was always showing up. I was making decisions in the business that I'm building based on the data.
Okay, that's not quite big data, but you're making decisions based on what the data
people.
yields.
I'm a designer. I can't do big math.
All right, that's
but
fine.
you can extrapolate that and do it with hundreds of thousands of people on the social web.
All right, I think that's plenty for us to talk about. So let's talk about the shifting business model, the equity thing. So you want to relate some stories? Or
it's really simple. I found out
about that.
In 2005, I started doing a lot of startups, mainly because I was, traumatized by working with ad agencies. It's a lot of work. We were getting paid well, but it was kind of abusive. So I said, you know what, let me work with startups. And our first startup was called This Next. I didn't take any equity in any of those startups early on in the first 3-4 years. But I realized as time went on that the big opportunity wasn't really necessarily only in getting service fees, wasn't being an equity stakeholder in that. I learned all the language, like what is equity, how do you divide it up, what does it mean, valuation. Doing that experience really opened my eyes. What I found though was that the psychological impact of not just being a service provider, but being an equity owner in what you're building makes a product better.
Really?
Yeah. Because you have a vested interest in it. The potential of success is higher. If I'm just getting paid to develop somebody's product, I could fake it that I'm interested.
I'm gonna challenge you on that a little bit.
Why?
Because I design for clients all day long, and sometimes I feel like I think about their product and their services and how to help them innovate, maybe more than they do. That's my job. I'm not any more or less interested or invested in a project based on the money, and I think a lot of designers feel the same way.
Okay, so let me rephrase my argument.
That's okay. Do you accept that?
No.
Okay, then challenge me.
It's not about whether I'm vested in it or not. I'm like you. I'm invested in it no matter what. Whether they're paying me or not paying me, I'm really vested in it that I want to help that person. Otherwise, I wouldn't be working with them. It's the reverse. If they gave you equity, they trust you. They expect there's a different. It's like when you
the relationship changes.
The relationship changes.
They put a ring on it.
You're a partner. Yeah.
They put a ring on it.
Beyonce style.
Okay.
Put a ring on it.
Okay.
It's a different respect that you get if you put a ring on it.
Right. Okay. So here's the thing, though. When you talk about this, I kind of want to just give a little framework context about why people are doing this equity model. Okay. And I'm going to throw out something, and you challenge me if I'm not understanding this correctly. Okay. So these startups, they don't have a lot of capital. And they want to use their money wisely. Yeah. They realize working with somebody like you or me is valuable to their operation because we add a lot of experience to it. Mm-hmm. But what they can't do is pay us what we're worth. Yeah. So they do a split kind of like reduced rates in exchange for some equity. Mm-hmm. Is that about right? Does that sum it up?
That's correct.
So there are some risks here. There are some risks. You're getting paid less than what you normally would get from a big client. But what you're getting is a piece of the back end. So it's kind of like an investment that you're making in yourself and the belief that that company is actually going to go somewhere. So if they don't go somewhere because of poor management or just they're not fiscally responsible, guess what happens? All that work is gone. And you've actually experienced some of that yourself back in 2005-ish, 7 or something like that, right? Yeah. So talk to us about a little bit of the pros and cons.
So some of the pros, until 2007, I actually didn't take any equity.
Okay, 2007, sorry.
There was also companies that I really helped out and that sold later, and I'm like, oh man, I should have had a cut of that. I thought what I did was valuable, so I was like,
you can't always pick the winners.
Right. But what's interesting, what happened in 2008 when the economy went really bad was that people came in with less cash. The prices came down, and they were like, oh, come on. But I had at that point made the decision that in order for me to be really vested in the project, and I still disagree with you that it changes the psychology. The psychology is not necessarily of the design. I really scrutinize my decision making a lot more when I know that I'm so responsible that I could make a ton of money if I do this right or if I make them succeed. What I discovered was that, I'll give you an example. Hunuku, I can name a lot of the startups that I took equity in, and I understood what happened. There's one startup that I went and pitched like a ton of people with. We weren't getting paid enough to go do all that amount of work. I was learning. I was doing it from the point of view of, shit, I'm having an opportunity here to figure out how to build startups with somebody who's willing to allow me to do that. So that was another startup with somebody in entertainment. There's a different relationship. It's like a marriage. But here's the final insight. I'm going to move it forward to scratch it.
Wait, did you answer all the pros and cons?
Oh, so one of the pros is that you can make a lot of money. It's
a lottery ticket, right?
It's a lottery ticket.
It's a lottery ticket. They're not all going to pay off.
9 out of 10 are going to fail.
They're not going to work. So
right.
They actually have a 10% chance. So the odds
less
aren't
than 10%.
Great. Their odds aren't great.
Yeah, the odds aren't great. But that's a pro. But here's the other pro.
That's a pro or a con?
It's both.
I thought
if it succeeds, it's great. If it doesn't, you're screwed. You're not screwed. Ultimately, you learn something, hopefully.
Yeah, but one can be everything's a learning lesson to me. So whether there's money involved or not, so that's not part of the equation for me. You're gonna learn something regardless.
A big pro is that you're gonna learn a lot about how to build a business. Yep. I think that's a great one.
Okay.
A con is that you're gonna get paid a lot less, so you might not be able to pay your bills or might not be able to be profitable.
So what you're saying is, if you have a stake in the company, they're gonna disclose to you financial information, marketing decisions, because they want your input. Otherwise, they're a little foolish, right?
You're a partner.
Okay. So some of the cons are it's high risk.
Yes.
You're getting paid less.
Yes.
So you're looking for the long tail, not the short tail.
Yes.
Okay. What else? The pro is they have a different kind of relationship with you. Okay.
Look, my relationship with the CEO of Scratch It is extremely different than my relationship with just a client. There's a vested interest in the success. He also invested in the school. So that's there's co-investment. I really believe that in order for people to succeed in the future, that there has to be a vested interest in the success of both parties. When you
it's a true partnership.
A true partnership.
Okay.
When somebody's just paying you and they don't really care, they want you to do whatever they ask you to do, that sucks. Because then you're at the bottom, right? They're in control, they're paying you, they have all the cards.
That could be a topic too for us in the future. About that relationship, okay?
And I think we can move the conversation from pros and cons to how do you actually manage a relationship that's an equity-based relationship. Suddenly you're an equity partner in a business. Suddenly you have a different type of responsibility.
I think we can spend the whole topic today talking just about the equity relationship, okay? Because I have some experiences myself.
Go for it.
Now here's the thing, even early on when we're starting, and I gotta be honest, I don't think I provided a lot of value to the person on the other side. People would pitch me all sorts of crazy business ideas, but I was, my conservative, maybe it's my kind of Asian upbringing. Just let's count on the money that we can have, and I'm not about striking it rich. Yeah. And I've seen that go bad for a lot of people.
I agree.
So everybody's like, this is going to be the next biggest thing, man. This is remember interactive CD-ROM? Yeah. I had a guy back in the day saying, Chris, it's really big, it is really important. But what they didn't do was to have a deal in writing that tied me to it. They would talk about these empty promises about your
you need to have
it's going to grow. A deal. You know what I'm saying? So
convertible notes.
There's a deal.
Convertible notes.
So you need to have a deal.
Find out what that is.
And I think what you have to do is you have to be very selective. But one of your biggest motivations is you got to believe in the company. So if they're doing funny things and you're not sure about the management, the leadership,
due diligence,
right? You have to pick the right players. You can't just say and fall in love with the idea that we appreciate you so much.
Don't invest in the ideas.
We want to get into an engagement, and you're all about it.
Don't get suckered into that. If they over-compliment you, don't work with them.
And then everybody thinks their baby is the most beautiful, and it's going to be the multi-billion-dollar Facebook, Twitter, IPO. It's not true. It's not true. So be realistic about what you're going to get out of that.
I love that, by the way. And I don't think we have to talk about equity. I think we should do a whole episode about that on its own. But here's the final thing about equity, and I love what you just said about if they're enamored with their idea and with their product, walk away.
Okay.
Completely walk away. If they understand how to build, final thing, read the Lean Startup. Read the Lean Startup, read the Lean Startup. If you're a designer, that'll tell you everything you need to know about the success of a startup. All right, so the reason why we brought up equity is the relationship of working on a project. Tell me about the video game stuff that you're working on.
Which one?
Are they social video games?
Social video games.
Okay. So they're competitive, and you do it
So
online.
here's the great thing. For a number of years, mostly the entire history of Blind as a company, we're a service provider. We provide great design, and I'm getting older, more mature, and I'm kind of being positioned in a way, or developing relationships with people that want my opinion, want my input, and I've realized that I have this body of knowledge that actually can impact a lot of different businesses. So I was invited to participate in the design and development of a game for Facebook as a social game. And prior to that point, I've never played a Facebook game before. You guys would send the Farmville request to be, send me stuff, Mafia Wars, and I would unfriend you because it was getting super annoying, right? So don't do that. I don't think people do that anymore, but I got invited to help come up with ideas, themes, to understand game mechanics. So I started doing research in that. And I do have an equity stake in this company, okay? And so I'm trying to figure out how to make the game more successful. And I'm studying other models and the patterns that emerge. And I know I'm not like everybody in this way, where I look at things and I try to figure out what the patterns are, the relationship, because if you can figure it out, you can duplicate it and reuse it. I teach my students
totally
this
do that,
to kind of figure it out, right? Find the pattern, then you can replicate it. So that's what we're doing right now. And so I've learned a lot about how social game mechanics work, in terms of the whole game is built around you inviting your friends and your friends inviting you back. So it's like this kind of infinite loop. You're always
So you were
together.
playing the other day here?
Pardon me?
You guys were all playing that?
Yes, that was another social game. But that game you played together was
But
different.
I like that. I like that you were actually actively participating in the creation of the product.
Right.
One thing I think, and I'm going to be very critical of our design community, if you're in our design community, I'm going to be critical of you, is that people are really form-oriented, like what it looks like.
Yes.
And they are not necessarily as function-oriented as product designers might be.
Right.
If we're graphic designers is what I'm saying. And I think that in interactive, that's user experience.
So let's make that
designers.
positive then. Instead of being critical, what can they do?
Well, UX, and UX isn't technical. UX isn't wireframes. UX is simply understand what you were doing the other day, like playing with the entire team to figure out what the game was like. That's user experience. Prototyping something and testing it out. That's user experience. It's not necessarily about, it's going beyond the screen or beyond.
Say user experience one more time.
User experience.
Okay, sorry. Every time you said user experience, it went up an octave. User experience.
User experience.
Right, okay.
It's like Seinfeld. Come on, get with it, assholes. So the point is that I like the way that you were engaged in the process of creating the product, and that you were a participant in it, not just somebody who starts decorating it.
Well, isn't that natural, Jose?
It is, but it's not necessarily natural across the board. I was actually really impressed with Art Center's new interactive program and with their master's program. When you went to their lab, they're like there's beakers and shit, and they're like, making science. That's what I want to see in design. Lab, right?
Right.
Blind labs. Anyway, but that's my personal opinion, so let's talk about it. It's like, let's talk about it from...
Thank you.
Let's talk
you
about
guys must be related.
Let's talk about it from mobile point of view. Here's why. So mobile
Are we
games,
moving on to a new topic?
Yes.
All right.
So
before we do that, I want to turn to the people that are in the audience here. Do you guys think that we've done due diligence and talked about the whole equity risk thing? Because I feel like we can speak about this topic for about 4 hours. I have way more stories, and somehow we always promise we'll.
But I think that should be its own episode.
Okay.
There's a reason why I just want to do trends. Yeah.
All right.
It's a good teaser.
It's a good teaser. That should be its own episode.
So if you guys watch this episode and you want more, you got to let us know, and it's got to be loud. It's not just like one person in a room saying this is what we want.
But let's ask the audience.
We have to prioritize.
Let's ask the audience.
That's what I'm saying. That's who I'm talking to.
Oh, you're talking to the audience over there?
Yeah, I'm talking to the audience.
We're cross-talking.
Who are you talking to?
I thought you were talking to the people in the room.
All right.
So if you have a topic that you really think, out of all the topics we're talking about, we should do a whole episode, tell us why in the comments and ask for it. Okay, great.
You have to ask for it, and it can't be just one person, because everybody has these very individual needs, and we're trying to figure out and how to prioritize the topics we talk about.
I just forgot how many cameras we had.
You can pick a special one that could be made into a deck.
I agree. So that's a good. How to work with equity? That's a great.
Okay, that's a good one.
That's a good one.
Thanks, Chris.
So we went through that.
Chris.
We're talking about social games. Now we're talking about mobile. The reason I want to talk about mobile because it's all about mobile. 80% of the startups at launch were mobile. Everything from the winner, which was an application.
Wait, didn't we have an episode where you said mobile like 15 times?
Yes.
Okay, so all right. So we'll cut that loop back in.
And I'm going to get on my mobile phone here, on my smartphone. The application that won the launch conference was called Connect. And it's basically an application that Hold on. What it does, it tells you who your friends are. Well, it aggregates all your social feeds, LinkedIn, Facebook, everything, and it tells you what your friends are doing where. And it's not based on geolocation, it's based on where they check in. So if they checked in on Foursquare or on Facebook or on anything at a cafe, they tell you they're there, and you can say, hey, I'll join you.
They won?
How long are you going to be there? They won.
What did they win?
$250,000. But the point is, interesting, I would use this. A bunch of other applications, some I would use, some I wouldn't. But mobile is really changing our lives. You know, how do you use your phone?
I use it for everything. It's kind of hard to imagine how we can live without our mobile phones now, right? It's basically a computer in your pocket. So it's interesting. From the simplest of things, you're in a new town, city, and you need something to eat. What do you pull up? Your phone. You're going to pull a phone, and you're going to pull out Yelp or something like that. And now it's like I don't even really need to look up directions or anymore. I just talk to Rise or to Siri and ask where am I going,
that?
Right? I don't know how you do
just
it.
talk to
the
it?
person next to me usually does that. So that's how you use mobile. Mobile is so integrated, and if you watch the metrics, which I think we're going to talk about a little bit here, right? You can see how that's growing as desktop is decreasing.
Oh, totally.
Right?
Mobile
it's going to invert.
It's
It's going to invert.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not quite there yet.
Mobile and
I'm
tablet.
looking at our statistics, but some kind of iOS or an Android-like device, it's going up in terms of usage. So that means.
What does that mean?
What do you mean?
You were about to say what that means.
That means that you have to start thinking about how to design for a very different screen size. Somebody is not 10 feet away, they're not 5 feet away, they're about 14, 16 inches away from the screen. And you can't make tiny little buttons because this is the input device,
Fingers,
right?
yeah.
You're pinching and zooming. And so you don't want to make somebody scan all over the place. So I'm finding that a lot of people now are designing separate sites. There's the desktop site and then there's the mobile site. And it's what do you call that? What's the term?
Responsive.
No, it's not
responsive.
responsive.
No. When you have two separate sites.
It's not native.
No.
You're the web guy, dude.
I'm the web guy, bro. Just moving on.
Okay, no. We'll figure out an edit point.
Figure out an edit point.
Do you know? It's a responsive, native, and what's the other one?
Adaptive.
Adaptive.
Yeah.
It's adaptive, right?
Adaptive, yeah.
Okay, so let me cue you up. So what's that called, Jose?
Adaptive.
Adaptive.
When you have a site
It's like it just came right out of your
mobile.
mouth, like you remembered.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But
the memory on
okay,
you.
so why are you talking about adaptive versus responsive?
Well, it means that you have to take it seriously because what is responsive, Jose? What is responsive?
So responsive is when you have a site that looks like this here. Okay, here, I'll do it like that. You have two modules sitting next to each other like that. And then I'll do it on this side so you can see content. It has two modules sitting next to each other. And then when you make your browser smaller for a mobile, it goes like whoop.
So it scales. It dynamically scales
scales
the site based on the screen size, right? So iPad, it's 2 columns. Mobile, it's 1. Desktop, it's 3, 4, 5, whatever, however big your monitor is. Now, so then adaptive is what?
Adaptive is when you have a version for your site that is like this, and then you have a completely different new site that you adapt to, off screen, that you adapt to the mobile. Or it might be completely, it's a brand. So here's your desktop site, right? And then when you go to mobile, it's a new site.
It might not even have the same navigation system. It might be different content. It might have a
you adapt the
stripped-down
content
version.
to the format.
Right.
And then there's pros and cons. On which
There are
one you
pros
do.
and cons.
And then there's native applications.
No, we
which
don't
have
talk
a
about
bunch of,
that.
okay, moving
Okay.
on. But what you're saying is this.
We just threw native under the bus.
No. Because people get
That's
confused.
cool.
Native
No, that's
means
fine.
that it's an installation in the native environment. But inside the native environment, you can also have HTML and adaptive content. So
That's fine.
let's not even go there.
That's too technical.
So it's too technical. But the point is this. Here's the point about it. If you're not working on mobile, if you don't understand the mobile landscape, you are... I didn't bleep it.
That's fine.
But do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
Okay.
I read.
You read stuff.
I read.
Yeah, I read. So that's all. That's my point.
Okay.
I think that can end the trend there.
Okay.
Quantification, that's a big one. Or big data. Let's do big
I have a
data.
question, Jose.
Yeah.
Please.
Is that if you're not in social media, is that for designers or is it for anybody?
Yeah, it is for
any
anybody.
industry?
It is for any industry. It's for business, it's for video, it's for film, it's for anybody. Mobile is such a big touch point now because people have it. It's very personal.
Everybody.
Everybody.
Not a farmer in South.
Even the farmer.
All right.
Because it goes into sensing and it goes into data and it goes into what's happening next. A lot of
Why do you ask that
warming.
question?
To figure out the trends in global warming.
Sure.
Or
Why do you ask the question though? That it matters to other people? Is that a point you're making?
Because I know people who
Don't think it relates to them.
don't think it relates to them.
There are people that it might not. Look, if you don't think it relates to you, it doesn't relate to you. That's the bottom line. It is what it is. What it is. I mean, it's a subjective thing. So which one of these two, quantified or big data? What's it? Quantified self is a big one. Big data is a big one. I like quantified self better.
Let's do quantified self.
What the hell does that mean?
I don't even know what it means.
So a few years ago,
Wait. Tell me what it means and then give me the
quantified
story.
self is Nike Plus.
Okay.
That's an example of it, where you have a sensor that's measuring what you're doing. That's why it's called self.
So steps you've taken.
You love sports. I mean, you love
calories
like
you've
working
burned.
out. Yeah.
Yes.
So you have to check out a
Hours slept.
Yes, you have to check out something called Move. It's moov.cc is the website.
Okay.
Holy crap! And I think it's crowdfunding that they're doing it, or pre-orders, and it basically tells you if you're doing good form. Okay, you need to slow, and it tells you need to slow down. You're going too fast. Don't break it. It also tells you if you're doing pull-ups, it tells you to slow down or to go all the way up. You know how you do it when you're coaching?
Yeah.
It does all that for you. And I'm like, that's what I want. It's like Chris Do, the fitness coach in an application.
Okay, so people that are into sports and fitness, they've been doing this actually for a really long time. They wear a heart rate monitor, and that talks to another device because you want to kind of be near peak. So and as your body changes and adapts, it's going to take more exercise actually for you to be in that kind of heightened state, right?
Yeah.
But what all these apps like Nike Plus have done is they've made that process really easy.
Really easy.
And what they do is, this is where the social part comes in, which is really amazing, which is that data just used to live and die within your notebook or whatever else, right? And it didn't go anywhere. Now, as soon as you get to a Wi-Fi spot, it uploads and it can be broadcasted to friends.
And you get competitive.
You can run virtual races. But there is a phenomenon, the fact that you're being observed changes your behavior. The fact that you're measuring things changes.
It changes your
So if
behavior.
you want to watch what you eat because you're on a diet, write down everything that you eat in every day. It'll change what you eat. So
Better yet, have an application
you'll have
that
this
does it
guilt.
for you.
There are applications.
That do it,
There's
right.
plenty.
But even quantification, I walk more today because I know because I have an application on my phone that tells me how much I've walked every day, and it helps me stay, in my figure.
That beautiful form.
Yeah, in my girly figure.
Right.
So the issue is this: the quantified self is important at the relative context of changing behavior. So if you look at application design as it relates to influence, which is a lot of what we got. Graphic designers got hired to influence people, tell them about it. And it's no longer about here's what we're doing. It's not about posters. If you still think it's about posters, stop it. Posters are nice. No,
You just offended a whole bunch of people.
I just offended a
That's
whole
okay.
bunch of people.
Including some of our former
But no, I
professors.
love print. I love print.
Hey,
I love print.
You already said it. It's all right. Cat's out of the bag. Go on.
I love print, but it's quaint. Oh, that's making it worse.
come on.
No, but quantification is pretty awesome because you can design graphs, charts, you can do competitions. There's a lot of really cool stuff.
You can virtually walk across the country if that's what you want to do.
There's a lot of awesome things that you can do. You can compete. There's games, which is great.
Yeah.
So that's related to, quantification is also related to sensors. Quantified self is about self. But for example, right now, without mentioning where or who, I'm advising, a startup which is dealing with sensors and sensor networks and how that affects, farming, how that affects, warehousing, how that affects all these different big things. The minute that you begin adding data to the processes and to what businesses do, it changes everything.
Okay.
It changes everything. Imagine you had all your freelancers wired for data, how much they're moving their mouse and how much they're working, how much the output is happening relative to. No, that's horrible.
Yeah, it is horrible.
That's horrible. Don't say that. All right.
Okay.
So let's move on.
Well, we're almost out of time here. We really are. So this whole idea of what the quantified self, how does a designer, because this show is about the business of design. What are designers, business owners, what are they going to do with this trend that you pointed out?
They need to, their portfolios need to reflect this. Their portfolios, there's a bunch of trends that we didn't talk about. Video, second screen.
Oh, yeah.
Second screen is a big one. Let me actually do a transition from quantified self to second screen. So we do motion graphics at Blind, right? And you watch a film. But all the content that's coming out in second screen are little clips. For this show, we're going to start putting out little clips because you can watch the whole show, or you can watch all the whatever funny things we say, or like the topics broken down.
You know who's doing a great job?
Who's doing a great
Jimmy
job?
Fallon.
Jimmy Fallon!
He's doing an amazing job.
Killing it.
Because he's cutting out the segments, and he's not making me watch the whole show. There's no commercials. And you can see a popular video getting millions of views or whatever it is, hundreds of thousands, and you can watch it, and it's really great.
So here's how you combine all these trends. We're in the business of videos. We start making clips. We start taping a show. We start going equity. We start doing business. Suddenly our business ecosystem is totally different than 5-10 years ago, than a year ago even, when we were getting money for just services. We're getting involved at the ground floor of the different opportunities in the 21st century because we're dipping our toes into different business models, because we're understanding the trends. So this is how it comes back to our designers and to the people who watch our show, including the business people that are tuning in to talk about design. And the business, when you design a business today, it's exponentially so much more complex that it all comes back down to, do you have a strategic framework and a core that's going to help you run your business versus all the different deliverables and all the different things that are happening that's really confusing. Huh? No?
That was a little rage, but all right, that's fine. That's
All
fine.
right.
I guess we're out
I'm
of
done.
time, right?
Oh,
Promise
no,
me-
tell me your thoughts. Tell me your thoughts on the
On what?
trends. Good, bad, scary.
Well,
What excites you? You're a techie kind of guy. You
I am.
consume a lot of stuff.
I do. Well, I don't know if any of this is earth-shattering. Maybe it'll be for some of our audience. You already can see it.
Well, now you're
This is
being
already.
rude.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying, like, in terms of, we know all that data is being mined right now. It's been mined for tens of years, right? It's
More
been for a long
recently,
time.
yeah, but more recently.
Well, more recently because it's actually turning to something that designers are going to touch at some point.
It's also worth money to the business
Right.
people.
Like banks would be doing this kind of stuff, or
Right.
or like a large consulting company would be looking at this kind of data.
Yeah.
Right. So we know that everything is being measured, and people are looking at the data. And I don't get creeped out by it. Some people get creeped out by it. But look at Facebook. Facebook's ad program is one of the most successful ad programs because they cater the ads to what your personal interests are. And how do they know that? Because you told them that.
Yeah.
They know what you listen to. They know who your friends are, what kind of topics you like, what books you read, because you keep telling them that. So where you would be annoyed by these banner pop-up ads, I've actually clicked on more banner ads, or what do you call those things on the side? Those pop-up ads on the right-hand column on
what, on
Facebook?
Facebook?
Yeah.
Ads?
Ads. I've clicked on more of those than I have anywhere else.
Gotcha.
The other ones are just white noise to me.
Get it. Me too.
So they're
Me
using
too.
your
Facebook,
data.
oh, that's really related to me.
Right? They're
Yeah.
using data that you provide to provide value in that equation. So if there's a flying adventure that you're into, or some kind of outdoorsy thing, because I'm into the outdoors, I see it, I'm like, oh, I need to
cool.
tune into that.
Yeah. So what you're bringing up is a huge issue,
I am.
which is for designers. We haven't been involved in the marketing and in the business side of things too much in the past. So now that all this stuff is happening, it's kind of convoluted, right? So marketing, this is all marketing. And what is marketing? Is it talking loudly and yelling at people? Does that make sense? I think there's a pervasive challenge of really being able to shift the conversation away from us as service providers that design for marketing people versus
Okay.
understanding marketing and understanding communications in the 21st century. A lot of us are still in 20th century models.
I think what you're talking about, broadcasting, which is to a broad audience,
Yeah.
throwing your message out and hoping it hits somebody.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's called narrowcasting, but just focusing on providing value to the people that are looking at it. So I'm not going to try to sell you dog food because you don't have a dog. Let's just say, I know you have a dog, but
No, I get you.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That wouldn't work for me.
But how do you know I have a dog? You've never met my dogs.
You talk about dogs all the time.
No,
You
but
talked
see
about it
them on
last
Facebook.
week.
Yeah. Okay, got you. But the problem, you're right. It's a two-way channel today, and it's much more complex. Should designers be involved in this conversation?
They have to be. They already are.
They already are. Okay.
They already are.
Okay. So next week we talk about
What are we talking about?
marketing.
Okay.
What's marketing? What's marketing ecosystems? How do we engage within the context of understanding marketing? What's our experiences right now as we help our clients?
Okay. So I think we've talked about this before in terms of sales. Now we're going to dive a little deeper into that, right?
Into marketing and especially as it pertains to client services.
Okay. I would love to spend some time talking to you guys out there more about this whole equity business model, because I have some stories to share with you.
So next week we're going to talk about how personalized marketing is becoming, or not just messaging, but the creation of experiences is highly personalized. I love it. All right,
Okay.
Great topic. Chris, Closing thoughts, and we can continue. Thank you guys. We'll see you guys next week.
No, I know you're exhausted. I'm tired.
Yeah.
Great show.
Good show.
All right.
That was awesome. All right.
Give it up.
All right.
It's like Seinfeld. No, come on, get with it, assholes. UX, 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 UX. The point is this. Here's the point about it. If you're not working on mobile, if you don't understand the mobile landscape, you are